Hi there, this is Diane from Stamping with Diane in Innisfil, Ontario, and I am here to share some tips and tricks about how to use up some designer paper to make your final Christmas cards, or of course this can be adapted for any time of the year. So here's an example of one of the ideas I'm going to show you today. So I'm starting off today with a 3x4 inch piece of designer paper. This is from our Fitting Florets paper package, which is available only until the end of December or January 4th, until as long as quantities last. So I am just going to cut this into strips of about a 1/2 inch. They don't have to be exact. It's kind of fun when your strips are a little bit different. So yeah, just randomly cutting here into strips. And now I'm going to put it together as a puzzle and get my soft succulent background, which is just 1/4 inch bigger. I love putting together puzzles. So now I've taken this piece and put it back together in the order that it was cut out so I can see the pattern. Now I'm going to take one strip at a time, apply my Stampin' seal, and pop it on, making sure I've got the same direction. And this first piece I'm placing so I've got a nice frame around the outside edge. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these. Now, some people like to prefer to work from the outsides in. I'm not too worried if oops, that looks upside down. There we go. Watching my puzzle pieces as I go. I'm not too worried. Is that right? That doesn't look right. There we go. Okay, so I'm not too concerned about the spacing. If I end up with extra space over here, I'm just going to trim that down. So I'm using my silicone mat in underneath here and my take your pick tool to pick them up, turn them upside down, and I will keep going on there. So after gluing, I do have a little bit extra on this end, so I'll bring in my paper trimmer and just trim that down so I've got equal size border all the way around. And now I'll pull in my card base. So for this one, we're keeping it very simple with a basic white 4 1/4 by the 11, and I've scored it at the 5 1/2 mark. So this is going to create our card base. And of course, when it is like this, you can have your card open portrait style or landscape style, your choice. We are going to mount it this way. But before I do, let's bring in some of our crinkled seam binding ribbon. And I'm going to trim a little bit of this and another smaller piece. And I'd like to wrap this around the back. So flipping this over, pop some adhesive on here. And secure my ends into place. And now I'm going to use this extra little piece to pop it in underneath. And just do the first part of a bow, just the right over left, under and through. And now we could pop this up on dimensionals. Let's just keep it simple today. This one's almost out. Let's switch over to my... I love that our seals, you can refill them so quickly and easily, our stamping seals. All right, so this Fitting Florets paper is, as I say, only available while quantities last. So it will not carry over into our upcoming January catalog. However, the stamp set will. Now, for our sentiment, I am using the Leaves of Holly stamp set, and I've chosen the Joy and Peace. So the way I've done that is I've laid out Joy and Peace and set them. I'm not sure my Joy is quite straight, so we're going to test that out on my background before I stamp it on here, and I'm going to choose the Evening Evergreen to do that. So inking up my Evening Evergreen. It's not quite straight. So I will realign these. So I've laid them out on the silicone mat, and that looks straight to my eye. So I'll pick them up with my block and we'll test that once again. See how it looks now. Much better. And I'm happier that I've got them a little bit closer together. And I'm going to put that down in the corner. Joy and Peace. And there we have a very simple card using a DSP strips in the background. So here was another sample using, this is the Splendid Day designer paper, which is on our retiring list. You'll want to get that before it's gone. And again, with the Christmas wishes from the Leaves of Holly stamp set. So that's our first tip. I'm thinking of also using some of this Boughs of Holly paper and some of the silver, and I think this would make a gorgeous wedding card or a congratulations card with the silver foiling in the background. Let me know what you think. My second tip for using up scraps and bits and pieces is it's fine to use retired cardstock, but just choose some patterns that coordinate with a similar color. So this is the idea, and I'll show you a couple of ways to make this card easy to achieve. So I've chosen the Real Red. It's going to be the backing layer, the basic white on top, and then I have some odd strips from our Boughs of Holly paper, and of course they coordinate with the Real Red. So just kind of alternating some of our strips here until you have a pattern or a design that you like. And there's no real right or wrong here. You can layer them up however you wish, but I'll show you a little trick to help keep your sanity while you're trying to glue all this together. So I'm kind of liking this look. So now I'm going to get my flag punch to flag the ends of these, and I'm just going to flag them on one side. So I'm just doing the last couple. I always turn my punch upside down so I can see the paper going in, so I can see that it's straight before I punch. And the nice thing about this is, as I'm layering these pieces now, if I want to change my mind, I can certainly flip them over to the other side of the designer paper. And now I'm just going to, I'm not worrying about this end at all. I'm just going to kind of layer these together, alternating some lengths of the papers, like so. Now, do I like that green or the other green? I think I'm going to flip this, put this taupey colored, this crumb cake layer in here. Let's make it nice and long all the way up, and might not even need this one. Okay, so I think I'm gonna let them overlap a wee bit. Okay, I'm using my Take Your Pick tool just to keep these using the putty end to help me get this just the way I want. And now I've cut a strip of our masking paper, which if you haven't used it yet, it is a lot of fun. I've just cut about a 1-inch strip here. I'm going to peel off the backing, and you can see this is quite sticky. So the first time you want to use it, I'm going to just put it on my hand here, let some of the oils from my hand go onto that paper. The reason for that is I want to take some of the stick out of it. Okay, that should be pretty good. And I'm just going to tear this in half. Now I can reuse these strips. So now I'm just letting my masking paper hold these strips together so they are still in line as best we can. And I've tried to make my ends alternate here so they're not all exactly uniform. I'm just going to pull one more strip of masking paper. Here's one that I've used before many times, and I'll just put that one right across the center to make sure we've got this held together nicely. All right, now as you can see, I can pick up this whole thing and get it ready to adhere to the other side. So before I do, now I want to trim my other ends so that I'm not putting glue where I don't require it. So taking my snips, and again, I want these just to be a variety of sizes. So just trimming some of them down and leaving some the way they were. Oops, that one got caught on my paper. And then as I flip it over, how are we doing there? Looks about right. Looks like this one needs to trim off a wee bit more. There we go. Okay, so I'll move this out of the way for a moment. I've got my adhesive sheet underneath, and now I can use the adhesive of choice. If you want to use your white glue or your stamping seal, and just run right across all of your strips, knowing that your masking paper is helping to hold all of this in place. Okay, so I'm just making sure I've got some on the ends, and you see it's not wobbling around. So I'm going to set that to the side for a moment. Let's build our card front. Pop that onto my real red layer. And we will put that onto a basic white card front as our bottom. Cut at the halfway mark on our trimmer. That's going to sit up here like so, but let's put this in first. So now all I'm doing is flipping this over, lining it up. Looks like I have this red is going to hang off, so I'm going to trim it back one more little bit. There we go. And maybe I'll trim this one. I don't want them the same lengths. There we go. I like that. And now I'm ready. Line it up here on my card front. Remember, we've got lots of adhesive on the back. And now I've pressed all of that into place, and yet I could still work with it. And now I'm going to gently remove the masking paper and set that aside because I will be able to use that again. And now we're ready to decorate and put our label on the card front. Okay, so we've got the adhesive on here. Going to center that nicely on the card front. I think that's beautiful as is. Now I'd like to use the handmade wishes to find a sentiment. This coordinates with the punch. The punch is going to continue in our new catalog, but this stamp set is retiring, so it's one you'll want to get sooner than later. So I've pulled out the Merry and the Christmas, and I'm looking at how that's going to look on my white strip. So there's the Christmas is lined up. Here's the Merry Looks like it's lined up, but I will always test it before I stamp it. So let's pick that up with my block. I do like to take both of them at the same time just because then I don't have to try and center it after the fact. So let's pull in the scrap again. And I'm using, again, the Evening Evergreen. Yes, I like that. I could bring the Mary down a wee bit. Let's just try that. Bring it in a little bit closer. Just kind of so those, let's test that one out. With the photopolymer stamps, it's easy to move them around. Yes, I like that a little bit better. It's a little bit closer in. And I'll stamp it on my white. Yes. So that's going to sit right here on our card base. So let's just do a little bit of fussy cutting around this. Actually, I might, let's maybe use a punch in behind with the red. Okay, so we have the option of just the straight across here, or I have fussy cut it out, and I was thinking a green label would look nice, and then I decided perhaps the crumb cake would be the best choice, so I think I might go with that one. So a little bit of adhesive on the back of my label, and pop it on top. We'll add a few dimensionals in behind our label, right across. And I'll find a few little sparkly gems to put on top of this one. Maybe some of our green or red jewels, keeping it very traditional. And there you have it, another sample of using our strips of paper, some masking paper, to make some fun holiday cards. So there's our 4 examples for today. There we go. Trying to fit it all on the camera for you. And I hope that you've enjoyed that. I'd love to know how you're going to be using up your strips of designer paper before our holiday catalog finishes out on basically the 4th of January. Last chance to order a lot of these gorgeous papers. Have a great day and feel free to shop at my online store. And if you don't have a demonstrator, let me know. I would be happy to get you our newest catalog. Take care now.